This video is for drawing practice. We're going to be talking about adding blended value, cross-hatched value, and then we're going to be talking about some simulated textures and how to create those textures using our pencil and our blending tool. So to create our blending tool, we just take a paper towel, we fold it down to a square, and then I like to fold mine diagonally and then a little bit like this so it's got a point to it. First we're going to start with our blended values. This is what most students are familiar with, adding value, especially on a value scale. So a zero value simply means there's no value in that area, and then in our one box we're going to add just a very light value using our pencil. And then if we're going to do blended value, we'd simply take our tool, and once we have that value on the paper, we use it to blend it out. Then our two value, we're going to make it a little bit darker by pressing a little harder or putting our lines a little closer together, like this. And then we check that blend. And then 3 is going to get a little bit darker still. And then number 4 is the darkest. We want to kind of fill in that square. We want to make sure, and you can see that I'm going to crisscross my lines to get a little bit more layering of value. And then I blend that out. So for a value scale, it should go gradually from 0 all the way to 4 being the darkest value, and we need to have each section become slightly darker. So if I check it, I should be able to go like this and see that there's a difference in each of those two boxes. And if I can, then I know I've done it correctly. Now crosshatch value is very similar, except instead of using that tool, we just leave the lines. So for our number 1 value, I'm just going to go like this with my lines, and just for fun I'm going to see if I can kind of get these two values close together since they're both 1s. For a 2 value on cross hatching, I'm going to put my lines going one way, and an easy way to remember this is if I'm doing a 2 value, I'm going to go in 2 different directions, and by crisscrossing those lines or cross hatching those lines, I create my value that gets a little darker. So for 3, I might go this way, and this way, and then a 3rd way. And then finally, my 4, I'm going to go 4 different directions. And I'm going to put my lines fairly close together. Now I'm going quickly with this in order to save a little bit of time, but obviously if you're going to do some practicing, you want to spend some time with this. Okay, and there's my 4. Now what I tell my students is we use both blended values and crosshatched values in a drawing in order to give it a little bit more variety. It makes it more interesting. We might use our blended values for things that are soft or smooth, like glass or skin, or things like a tabletop. That would be a blended value. Things that would be a little bit of a rougher texture, like clothing or cloth, or things like that, we might use this crosshatch value. Okay, so those are the different value scales, and now we're going to talk about how to do some texture. Simulated texture just means that I'm going to make it look, using my pencil, as close to the actual texture as I can. So if I'm doing something shiny like a marble, first of all I'm going to figure out which direction my light's coming from, and then I'm going to add my value. My lightest value, a 1 value, is going to be, or a 2 is going to be up at the top, and then further away from that light source it's going to get darker. Here in the middle I can go up and down, but realize that on the edges I want to curve my lines like that. And then because it's something that's smooth, I'm going to add my blending here. I can kind of clean that up a little bit if I blend it outside of my area. And then to create something shiny, we need a reflection. So this is very, very important. You're going to use your eraser and you're going to create a glare. So I just erase part of what I've just done like that. And that is my glare off of from the light source on my marble. Okay, so I have all those different values plus my glare. Something soft like a cotton ball, I like to use my pencil again on its edge to kind of give it a little bit more texture. And I'm just going to add a few little, I call them just little curved lines like this within it. And then I'm going to blend it a little bit. I don't want to blend all of those lines away though, because I want to be able to see the texture. So you have to be thinking about what kind of texture am I trying to put into my picture. Rough, like tree bark. Again, use the pencil on its side because that's how you get that rough texture. If I have my light sources there, I'm going to have this lighter up here, curve those lines so it looks like it's going around something like a sphere instead of a flat circle. Add that shading value down here. And the difference between a shiny marble and a rough tree bark is I don't blend that out. I want that texture to show from my pencil line, so I'm going to leave it just like that. If I'm going to do something slimy, I think about what that would look like. It's going to be drippy, it's going to be kind of reflective, it's probably going to be a little smoother in order for it to have that kind of that wet, slimy look to it. And so I'm going to do lightest up here, and then a little bit darker as it goes down, drips down away from that light source, like this. I like to use my pencil on the side a lot because that is just, put that darker underneath that slime. I can make puddles of slime, but by using my pencil on its side, I can get a lot more texture. But with my slimy, I want to blend that texture away. So I'm going to go like this. And if I want it to look like it's something that's ooey gooey and wet and slimy, then I probably want to put in some sort of reflection here on the top where that light source is hitting it. And that's going to make it look like it's got some little bit of reflection to it. All right, scaly is very easy. You're just going to add this kind of a line. I'm just going to do this as if it's on a flat circle. And I just jump from one of those, I call them hilltops, to the next. And that's how I add in scales. If I want to add some value to those scales, I can blend them, or I can even add some other shading, shadowing underneath the scales, like that if I want to. Okay, so that's just a really quick lesson on how to add some different simulated textures, makes your drawing more interesting, and obviously adding value really makes all your details show up much better too.